Well, hello. Welcome to the Creative Writing Life podcast, where we talk with writers from all mediums and genres about themselves, their work, and advice they have for writers. I'm your host, Paul Zeidman, and my guest today is not a writer, but he works with writers. And this is going to be a very interesting and hopefully educational episode for a lot of you writers, especially those who want to get into self-publishing your own work, but he can get into all that kind of stuff. Rick Lite of StressFreeBookMarketing.com. We can throw that in too. Rick, welcome to the Creative Writing Life podcast.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my
Appreciate that.
pleasure. It's great to have you here. This is as we were talking before we started, just a lot of stuff that a lot of writers probably have questions about, and hopefully you can shine a little light on that. But as regular listeners and viewers of the show are familiar, we like to start things off talking about things we may have read or watched lately. Did we like them? Did we hate them? We're kind of like indifferent to it. We're just kind of like, no, I don't need to see that one again. I'll go first just to give Rick a little time to collect his thoughts. It took me a couple of days, but I don't know why I decided to watch it. But I watched Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny again because I saw it when it first came out in the theaters, and then I watched it after I got the digital copy, and I decided, I'll give it a try. I think because I like the opening part the most, and again, I liked it. Didn't love it. It's better than Crystal Skull, and I think it's just. I think they were doing what they could with Harrison Ford, who I think was like 78 or 79 at the time of filming. So, there's only so much you can do with an action star who's getting on in years. But I still enjoyed it. And I think that final scene it always gets to me. But I'm not going to do spoilers because there might be someone out there who actually hasn't seen it yet. But Rick, that's what I watched. How about you?
I find myself watching more episodic shows instead of movies. And for some reason, I'm really in a mood of British-based um, television. So Hotel Portofino is something that we're watching now, and it's based in Italy in
Oh, okay.
the 1940s and or 30s, and it's a very interesting show. There's the character development is great, the landscape is beautiful, and the theme and the writing I think is good. It's enough to keep your attention, and
Hmm.
the combination of all those things keeps us going. And the nice thing about streaming is when you're done with that, they're going to recommend something else. So
Sure.
there's an endless amount of television that you can watch.
Yeah. What platform is that streaming on?
That is on Prime and then
Okay.
on PBS.
Okay, so I'm guessing it started on PBS and then Prime decided, hey, we'll show it
I,
again.
I believe so. We watched a couple of shows in PBS. I tend to like that station, and then I don't know how Prime got involved, but
Yeah,
I just turned the television on and dropped down an icon, and there you go. I don't actually have to log into Prime for some reason, but
very nice.
makes it
Okay,
nice and easy to watch.
sounds good. And who doesn't like a show, set in vintage Italy?
Yeah,
That sounds
it's
great.
yeah.
So, Rick, let's talk a little bit about you. As we said, not a writer, but you work with writers. So, how did you get your start? I mean, were you a writer at one point, or you just were working in a different field and said, "Hey, I want to help writers out."
A little bit of both. I do writing, but it's not the kind that we're talking about for this show. But my wife is actually an author, and she created a line of children's books
Hmm.
that helps kids with stress and anxiety and anger. She's been doing it for 25 years or so, and she asked me to help her on a project. This was many, many years ago, about 20. And I was doing headhunting for the IT industry, and I was between jobs, and I thought I'd help her for a month. And as I got involved in the project, I really enjoyed that type of sales and marketing.
Hmm.
So I stuck with it a little longer and found myself really liking what the business was about, and it was learning something new. It was applying different skills that I had learned, but then learning a whole another set of skills that I hadn't. And as we went through, she was motivated to continue to write. So the ability for me to help her and her writing just gelled into creating a very nice situation. And we created a publishing company, Stress Free Kids, and about 12 years ago, I started Stress-Free Book Marketing, which is a marketing agency just for independent authors. So I have that blend, that very unique blend of knowing what it's like to bring a book to market, the emotional side of that, and then the skills on how to take a book, create interiors, create covers, do the editing, all that needs to be done to bring a book from a manuscript to a physical book, and then market it and promote it. And I find that combination is amazing. But I really love the marketing side of it because that's the most challenging,
Mhm.
that's the most difficult, and that's really what authors need the most.
Yeah, I was going to say that I was looking at the website for the company, and it really does look like a one-stop shopping site for writers who want to get their material out there. That you cover so many different aspects that, as you said, the marketing and the coaching and the advertising, but also it sounds like if a writer has a manuscript and they're like, okay, I don't know anything about this, they can just come to you and you can just say, okay, well, hey, I've got just the program for you. I mean, I'm assuming you can customize it to accommodate
Correct.
what the writer is looking for.
Yeah, I started the marketing agency because we were aware of and contacted by authors who ran into situations where they were being taken advantage of. You
Mhm.
know, whether it was spending too much money on the self-publishing part of it, or they spent too much money on a cover. Um, and I just felt that I can help people. I naturally have gravitate towards helping people in some way or another. So, although I do offer a lot of different services, I've experienced a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
We've gotten on national television. We've sold the rights to some of our stories to um, different publishers around the world who translated them into different languages. So, fortunately, we had experienced a tremendous amount of success in a relatively short period of time. And I wanted to not just capitalize on that, but ended up monetizing it with the
Mhm.
marketing agency. I just felt like there was such a need in this industry for ethical professionals to help authors, and I just really put myself in a situation where I can do that and do
Mhm.
it effectively. So
I actually have one
yeah,
quick question. You said that
yeah.
so you encountered some writers who had been taken advantage of. I mean, not that this is the cautionary tale everybody should take into mind, but I mean, are there some that really stood out? Like someone said, I gave this guy $10,000, and all of a sudden, and he never should, and my book disappeared. That sort of thing.
Yeah, nothing that is so flagrant, but one thing that does come to mind is I was working with an author who created a beautifully illustrated book, and she ended up spending probably close to $25,000
Hmm.
on the illustrations. And the the kicker was it was supposed to have included the illustrator putting together the interior of the book and creating the files that needed to be printed. It wasn't just the illustrations. And they got done with the illustrations and he had all her money and kind of just dumped her with the illustrations. So
Okay.
that's an example of one, but I know people have had situations where they're working with a company who maybe doesn't give all that information on what they're going to do, and they fall short in their expectations, or they're overcharging them, or just continually sending them invoices for things, not giving their files back, or not giving them the source files for the project, and then trying to hold them hostage if they need to
Hmm.
change or things like that. There's so much information out there on self-publishing, and there's so many players in the industry that it's very difficult for an author to navigate the best direction to go in.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That makes
So,
sure.
yeah. So the more people that are legit and the more people help each other who are legit, the less chance that authors have of being taken advantage of.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You talked about that you kind of helped your wife get her books up and running. So, what were some of the issues or obstacles that you encountered that you felt that, okay, there's a lesson here that I really think would be beneficial to pass on to other authors? Did anything really stand out from that, or was it just kind of like, we stumbled our way through it, learned from our mistakes? Was it a little of both?
Yeah, it ended up being a little of both. I didn't know the industry, so I had to
Hmm,
figure things out. Anywhere from acquiring ISBN numbers to spending money on barcodes where I really didn't need to. You have a barcode generator that's free online that you learn about after you spend $1,000 on barcodes. So
sure.
little small things like that where it's not exorbitant amount of money that you're spending, but you're also including your time in it. So I think when you learn something new, you typically never forget it. And then when you're doing it over and over and over again, as we did, it just is ingrained in your everyday approach for things. So what I do with my authors is I can create the vision and the timeline for what the project looks like so they can understand what's going to happen, when, what the timing is, what I need from them, what we're going to do, what the costs could be down the road for, if they wanted to advertise, if they wanted to spend money on, promotion, ebook promotions or things like that. And they just have, knowledge is power. They're just educated on the options that they have and the things that they can do to get their book out there and get it out to the masses.
Okay. I did want to ask, you work primarily with authors who want to self-publish because, I mean, maybe would an author who maybe has had a publishing house release their material, but they said, I wasn't getting the results I was hoping for. I just want to take it all into my own hands. I want to do it all myself. Would they
Right.
then come to you and say, okay, what can you do to help me? I mean, are you able to kind of utilize or capitalize on their previous, I don't want to say success, but their previous experience and kind
Yeah,
of work with that?
yeah, sure. I can work and have worked with authors that have come from mostly hybrid publishers. I did work initially when I started 12 years ago with some traditionally published authors who wanted more robust
Hmm.
plans. But I found that my market was really indie authors and authors that have an idea what the industry's about, but might not know how to execute it.
Hmm.
All the way back to somebody that wants to write a book and just doesn't know what to do from that point on. So I naturally gravitate towards, the educational side of it, with educating the author. So I'm more than happy to work with somebody who has a manuscript and wants to bring it to market, or somebody that already has the book published and is looking for marketing skills. Unfortunately, a lot of the people that I get referred to, like I'm on the Ingram Spark website under marketing experts. Um, a lot of the people that come from that are published. The hourglass is turned over already, and now they're like, all right, how do I market the book? It's a little bit more challenging than if I'm referred to somebody from a ghostwriter that I work with or
Sure.
an editor that I work with, where I can work with them before the book's published, because we know that makes a big difference on the launch. So it's really across the board,
Okay.
but yeah.
All right. So I was wondering that because you talked about earlier that you also have a kids division. So I guess are there any genres or formats that you or the company specializes in? Like, say, oh, we love mystery writers, or is it just, we love horror writers? Like, we love all writers, or and do you have, I guess, different people to handle different genres? And the reason I was asking about formats, like, do you work with people who have, like, I have a graphic novel that I want to publish, and would I then come to Stress Free and say, hey, Rick, what can you do to help me?
Yeah, I can handle any genre. I find that it's a nice blend between children's books, fiction, and nonfiction. I know that's a very general category,
Sure.
but with fiction, it could be anything from historical fiction, literary fiction, poetry, across the board, a lot of the nonfiction or memoirs
Hmm.
or how-tos. I find that I'm not doing a lot with, and haven't done any books with erotica or something that's a little bit out there or edgy.
Sure.
Um, I just, I'm not in that world, so therefore I'm not being referred to people in that world. But romance and other genres that will work with a lot will end up getting a lot of referrals to, so it perpetuates itself.
Okay, and so I guess because the more I think about it, like if someone says, "Okay, I have I have a gothic horror novel, and I want Stress Free to help me publish it," how would you be able to customize working with that writer? Is it just I mean, once you know what the type of material is, are you able to fine tune like who you are targeting in terms of advertising or like or even on social media, like where you could like direct the material so that people who are more open to that kind of material would see it?
Yeah, that's really just knowing who your target audience is and how to reach them.
Hmm.
So that doesn't, although the target audiences are clearly different, the concept of what you do to reach them is not.
Hmm.
So it's knowing where the bones are buried, knowing how to approach that industry and the effective ways of doing it. If you think of book marketing, there is a certain number of strategies that absolutely need to be done. You need to validate the book with reviews. You want to promote the book to your target audience. You want to have a presence out there so people can see other writing or see what you're about. You need to promote the book, so you're looking at advertising or Amazon ads or ebook promotions or giveaways or things like that. But those are all set. You're not going to really find that much difference between the genres on that. However, horror might have a whole nother set of strategies that you need to use,
Hmm.
just like you would in a children's book. So it's knowing what the strategies are, knowing how to reach the target audience, identify it, and then kind of working out from there.
Okay, so I think you alluded to this earlier because I my question was what are the benefits of working with stress free, and that what can a writer expect when they contact you, say, okay, here's my book, what do we do? I mean, do you have a certain set of questions like, okay, do you have the book written? Do you already have it formatted? Or it sounds like you work with them from the start and just kind of take it from there. I guess it's like a checklist. Like, okay, we've got to work on this. We've got to work on this.
Right.
We needed an author photo. We need an author bio. We did a cover illustration.
Yeah. It's really where they are in the project and what they need to get bring all the assets together to create a good book. I mean, I want to work with people that are working with editors and have the book professionally edited. If we're not involved in the production side, I want an author to have a professionally designed cover, as
Hmm.
we all know the cover, how important that is. And same thing with the interior. So there's certain questions that I'll ask if you were an author looking and said, I have a manuscript, I want to bring it to market. What do I need to do? Yeah, there's certain questions. Where are you? What are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? Who did you have in mind when you wrote the book? Where do you see it going? So I get them thinking about the project in a different way. How do you explain the project to somebody? You'd be amazed at how many people wrote a book and then I asked them to tell me about the book in 3 sentences, and 3 minutes later, we're still talking, So
Then in
we'll
chapter
work,
two.
exactly. We'll work on refining that for them because they're gonna need that.
Mhm.
So it's asking questions, understanding the project, certainly, but also being able to get them to feel comfortable in what they're doing because they have a big part in that, you
Right.
know.
Well, that is one of the things I was going to ask you about was that a lot of times, especially, my experience with screenwriting is a lot of people think, well, once I get a manager, I don't have to do anything. I'm home free. I can just write and they'll take care of everything. But according to the manager, that the more the writer can do to help them, that it's
Correct.
more beneficial to the whole project. And it sounds like it's very similar with what you're doing with authors, that an author just can't say, okay, Rick, here's my book, do what you got to do with it.
Right.
That you're going to come back to them and say, okay, here's what I need you to do. I
Yeah.
mean, and I assume a lot of writers are more open to that. It hasn't been like, well, wait, you mean I have to actually do more work now?
Yeah. Yeah. There are some people that don't want to do any marketing work, which is, it's understandable, especially if they're a little bit older and they're
Sure.
intimidated by technology. But for the most part, people that are looking to put together a book, they understand that there's skin in the game.
Hmm.
And it's a very collaborative arrangement. I need their input. I need their buy-in. I want them to feel like they have a tremendous amount of say in it. I want them to promote what they're doing with their audience, especially if I can work with somebody early enough in the process. I want them to reach out to their audience as well. They're through social media or friends or emails or however they're doing it to get them involved. Because the more people are involved with their project, the more people are going to be around and feel like it's something that they feel proud of as well, which benefits the author and then benefits the project.
Okay.
So
Uh,
it has to be collaborative, Paul. I mean, it's something that I'm working with people for a certain amount of time, and then it's up to them.
okay.
They're
I did
really
want to.
taking it from there.
Sure,
So,
sure. I did want to ask, what sort of results have you seen from a lot of the, I guess, the campaigns and the promotions that you've done? I mean, has anything like really taken off, or is it maybe something that, hey, maybe I've heard of that book, or I just like, do you have any success stories you can point at and say, hey, we did that?
yeah, I'll start with something that is very rare. It's happened to me once, and that is an author that I worked with for about a year overall, ended up getting a deal from Simon and Schuster to
Hmm.
purchase the rights to the book, and they're in talks now for a Netflix movie.
Wow.
Okay. Unusual to the extent that they were noticed by somebody at Simon and Schuster who saw the awards that they were winning, literary awards for the book. He didn't have a tremendous amount of reviews. I mean, 30, 40, 50 or so, but nothing that's off the chart that you see in some of these traditionally published books. That's the paramount, that's the ultimate. It's rare, but I say that because he put himself and we put him in a situation where he could be considered for something like that. He validated the work with reviews. He validated the work with awards. And despite the fact that some of the awards might be fairly easy to get, some of them were not easy to get, and they were appreciated by this traditional publisher who liked the writing, obviously read the book, loved the story, and thought, we can do something with this. So that doesn't happen every day. I would say on average, um, most of the authors that we work with, a big percentage of the authors are selling a consistent number of books every month.
Hmm.
They're constantly doing something, even if they published the book 2 years ago, they're constantly doing something to continue promoting a book or a series out there. So we create the right type of expectations with people. And I could speak of that from my experience. I still market my wife's stories as not as and nowhere near as much as I did originally, but to this day, and some of them are 18 years old, So knowing that you have to constantly do that, authors want to see constant sales and maybe increase constant sales every month. They don't want the up and down and, Amazon bestseller in this category 1 month and then 2 million in the next month. They want consistency and they want to continue to see people reviewing the book. I mean, I have not met an author yet who does not get excited when they get a good review for their book.
Sure, sure.
So those are the things that if we can teach people how to do that and show them the benefit of that, that's something that they end up doing on their own, and that leads to good things. And they put themselves in a situation that something good can happen.
Okay. It also sounds like you that when you start working with a writer, that maybe some of them come in with unrealistic expectations. They, as you were just alluding to, that oh, it's gonna be a number one bestseller. It's gonna be
Yeah,
on the Times bestseller
yeah,
list. That I
yeah,
guess you have to kind of not rein them in, but just kind of like bring them back to reality. And I'm sure for some of them, it's like really, but my book's really good.
yeah. It's really creating the right expectations.
Hmm.
You know, I don't want to beat somebody down who feels that their writing is amazing. Um, I'd want to explain to them what they would need to do to get there. You want to be on the New York Times bestseller list? Okay, well, how are you going to help me get, 3,500 reviews in the first 3 days, or,
Sure.
whatever the criteria is these days. So it's really shaping the right expectations, and I try to I try to put take the emphasis off of money. I do have people that have commented in the form they fill out on Ingram's site that they want to retire from their job and just write, or they
Hmm.
want to make, thousands of dollars every month writing. And it's really just the expectations have to be there, and maybe they want to speak. Maybe it's a how-to book and they want to be a public speaker and have the book. Well, okay, well, maybe you can make a couple $1,000s a month speaking and support, your writing with that. And hopefully the sales on the book continue to increase as well. So it's it's just painting a realistic picture, because
Hmm.
I don't want to work with somebody that feels like we're not doing what we said we were going to do because their expectations were in check, and they would
Hmm.
just know what is said to them. They wouldn't be selling 2,000 books a month.
Sure, sure. I actually that does raise a great point. I mean, have you received a manuscript and you read it and it wasn't there yet?
Not often, not
Okay.
often. Most of the manuscripts that I will get will be post editing. And if it's something that on the occasional one that I do get, if I feel like the story, I've done that a couple times where I've sent it back and I said, I think you should look at a developmental editor,
Hmm.
or even, a ghostwriter, if it's somebody that is open to that. And then I can refer them to people within that network
Okay,
who can
that,
talk
that
to
is
them through.
that is what I was going to ask. That it sounds like stress-free. That it's really more about the marketing. That it's not like, okay, you have a manuscript, it's your second draft. Don't come to us and say, "Can you help me fix it?"
Right. Yeah. I mean, yes, that's absolutely correct. As much as I love the creative side of it, putting together a
Hmm.
manuscript, or even, getting involved in helping them find an editor and really, really work on that manuscript. I find that I keep on going back to the marketing side. There's a lot of very talented people that could put together a book and a cover and do the editing. And I would love to have two or three people every month doing the creative side. But I find myself, if I'm doing one or two a month, I'm fine with that. It's the heavy lifting on the marketing side that I always roll into. So
Okay.
yeah.
So like I said, I was looking through the website and some of the services that Stress Free provides, and a couple of things caught my eye that I was hoping you could define them for the lay people like me,
I'd be
and
glad
and
to.
and exactly what is the benefit of working with that. So one of them is the author platform.
Okay.
So what does that mean, and how would you utilize that in terms, I guess, of marketing?
Yeah, the author platform is a series of strategies that every author should have or should seriously consider having. A network of people, a street team that's available to help them promote, social platforms, website, um, uh, editorial and reader reviews. I mean, understanding what's involved in that and making sure that the metadata that they put out is A plus, strong synopsis, strong keywords, in the right categories, so that that platform, if you visualize what a platform is, it's a jumping off point.
Mhm.
From there, they can get to the next level and start to see that success come in.
Okay, you did reference it in that definition. So, gaining editorial reviews, and I know what a reader review is.
Yep.
So, not being that familiar with publishing, what would it mean to gain an editorial review?
Sure. So editorial reviews for me are really anything that's not a reader review. You can classify it, you can separate it into industry reviews and blogger reviews, but it's really anything that's not going to be put in on, let's say, your Amazon reader account, after the book's published. Um, there are a ton of book bloggers that love reading and writing about books, and they're doing it to enhance their website. They're doing it because they just love to do it. They post the reviews on Goodreads or social media, um, or it could be a Kirkus review or another industry giant that reviews books. It's having the validation for the writing. And if somebody, if somebody wants to get into libraries, they have to have they have to have certain companies that
Hmm.
review the books like a Kirkus, that would allow them to be able to get into a library. So having as many of those reviews out there benefits the author in a number of ways, not just a Kirkus review being a marquee review, and especially if it's extremely positive, but also having constantly getting blogger reviews who post them elsewhere and are visible to the average reader. I do a lot of work on Goodreads. I love Goodreads. It's a reader website. And if their Goodreads account is set up properly and they have a ton of reviews on there, those reviews are posted by bloggers who have a network of people that see their stuff all the time. So now you're getting exposure in multiples.
Okay,
So yeah,
if I'm understanding it correctly, so an editorial review is more or less a professional review as opposed to a reader review, which is just Joe down the street.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay. I just want to make sure of that. And the last one is okay. I know what the second two things in this are, but first one is fulfillment, promotion, and advertising. Okay, I know promotion and advertising,
Okay.
but what do you mean by fulfillment?
Some scenarios require printing in bulk,
Okay.
where an author would have a fulfillment house and the books would be stored at that fulfillment house and shipped out from there. Amazon actually offers something similar. You have to be a strong selling author to get there, to get to that level, because there's costs involved, and you have to factor those costs into your expenses. Um, but most of the people that I work with, especially these days, as fulfillment kind of moves off the list, most people are printing on demand. So they're not storing any inventory or very little inventory. And wherever the book is bought, it's then printed and shipped out.
Okay, I can totally relate to that because I know a lot of writers who self-publish their own material, and they're always talking about, I've got boxes of my books in the garage. It's
Yeah,
taking up half of the office space. So
yeah.
that helps explain it a little more. One of the things I thought was really convenient on the site is that you have a page that lists websites for self-publishing and organizations. And I think that is just really, it's a great resource to have. And I think because maybe a writer will have questions and maybe they're not ready to take the plunge with stress free yet, but they will see all these resources and say, "Oh, I'm going to check this out first," and maybe that can help shine a little light on that. I mean, are a lot of these a lot of the links, are these companies or individuals that stress free works with, or is it just kind of like these are things that you should really know about just as a writer?
I think more the latter. You know, you have the Bowker and identifier services up there where you get your ISBNs. There's ISBN converters. I might even have the barcode builder on there. Two organizations that service the publishing and printing industry. Um, I try to give a lot of information to writers and authors so that they can educate themselves. That's really what this is about. And same thing with my blog. My blog is active. I blog every month. I send a newsletter out every month. So if people want to sign up for my newsletter, they go to my blog page. They can read any of the articles and all the marketing tools that are out there. We talk about, and maybe even some other tools related. So I just try to provide a resource. I try to work with everybody. I try to help everybody if I can in some way or shape that is beneficial for them. I can't work with everybody because I can't work with more people than we can handle and be effective with. So sometimes I have to um, not turn somebody away, but maybe pause somebody or delay the start or something just because I want to make sure that I can give them what they deserve. But in the meantime, they can read up on certain things, how to write a synopsis, the benefit of a strong bio, all the way down to social media, websites, whatever you have a need to know about the publishing, marketing, distribution, promotions for books are listed in the blog area. So it's all based on helping.
Mhm. Okay, so let's wrap this up. So, say a writer, here's this show, and they say, "Okay, I have a book, and I need some help. I want to help. I need help getting it out there." So they contact you, and it is stressfreebookmarketing.com. So we'll
Correct.
get that plug in a little bit later as well. So
Or
do they just, is there a form for them to fill out and say, "Okay, here's my book. Here's what I want to do with it," and I guess any other related questions?
Ingram Spark has on their website a form that authors can fill out. If somebody wants to come directly, and again, they're just there to help their authors. But if people want faster service or if they want to contact me directly, they can email me directly. They can go through the contact us page on the website, and we're gonna set up a meeting to talk. I want to talk to them. I want to hear what they want. I want to understand what their needs are, their goals, their desires, where they are in the project, what they've done, what they want to have done. And from there, we can figure out what the next step is. And whether they need a full program or whether they want a custom program or whether they want something that's just one or two strategies. Everybody has different needs and wants. Unfortunately, a lot of it is driven by money
Hmm.
because we live on the money planet. And so people, if based on their budget, they can come to us and start the relationship. And then as they're getting success, they're extending it month to month and month to month. I have some people that I've worked with for over 6 years, every month, so um, once they understand what we're all about, they tend to want to continue the process with us.
Okay, so I guess it's a great, again, it's a whole bunch of resources, which are fantastic, but it also sounds really beneficial to a writer who, doesn't know what they need yet, or it has a lot of questions, and you can do all the research you want on the internet. That sometimes just talking to someone who knows what they're doing, such as
Exactly.
yourself, that is probably definitely the way they should go. So I'm going to let you do the plug for your website, and
Yeah.
and if any other social media platforms that it might be connected to.
Yeah. So just commenting on that last one, if a writer came to us and they just have a manuscript that's raw, we can help them take it, into the physical form all the way through. We have a network of editors that we can refer them to. let them get comfortable with the people they like. We could talk about the development side and create covers for them. We could do it all. And these are all people that are vetted that we work with. I stay in the middle so that the author doesn't necessarily have to deal directly with five different people. They can just constantly hear a voice that's calming and reasonable in terms of what they need to know and expect, and go from there. So if people want to contact us directly, again, the easiest way is probably the stressfreebookmarketing.com website, the contact us page. Write us. I'll respond immediately. I usually respond within hours. And from that point on, we can set up a time to talk and or email whatever they're comfortable with and get a sense of what they need and how to go from there. As far as social media, the biggest platform that we're on probably is Twitter. Facebook being second. Instagram, I've gone back and forth with having a presence, having a personal presence, having a business presence, and I haven't figured that, what I really want to do yet. And I am not on TikTok, although it's extremely tempting because I just hear good things about some authors having success there. But like the landscape company, you have time to do other people's lawns, but you got to find the time to do your own. So, I'm also not, I'm also trying to vet people all the time.
Sure.
I'm trying to find reliable people that not only I could use, which is the first step, but that I can also either refer directly to my clients or again, stay in the middle and work with my client on it. But yeah, if they want to contact us, that's the best way to do that, through the
Okay.
website.
It's okay. So again, the website is stressfreebookmarketing.com. And I believe the Twitter account is at stressfreepub.
Correct.
Okay. Just in case, since you said that was your
Yeah.
biggest
And
social
I
media
and I want
platform.
people to check, I want people to do their due diligence and speak to other people. Check us out, see what we've done with Stress Free Kids, our publishing
Mm.
company, and our books, and they can Google Lori Light, who is my wife and the author on that, and see what how many pages come up for that. Um, and understand that, the uniqueness of being a publisher and being a marketing agency is something that's very unusual in this industry. So I feel very good about understanding what authors want and writers want, and being able to deliver for them.
Oh, that's fantastic. Rick Light, this has been really educational, especially, for someone like me who is not familiar with the publishing world. So,
Okay.
really appreciate you coming on and just, pretty much holding my hand and explain everything for me.
Well, it's been my pleasure. I'd love to do it.
Okay, that's fantastic. Rick Light, and it is stress-free book marketing. And of course, the website again is stressfreebookmarketing.com. Audience, if you've enjoyed today's podcast, please hit like and subscribe, leave a comment, tell your friends. You can check out my screenwriting blog, MaximumZ, at MaximumZ.blog. I'm on Twitter as well at Maximum_Z. And this show has its own Twitter account as well at Podcast CWL. And I'm also on Instagram. It's a mix of screenwriting and baking, pretty much, at Pez Screenwriting. And please, you can check out my Go Ahead and Ask books on Amazon. Like I said, that's Rick. I'm Paul. This has been the Creative Writing Life podcast. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, stay healthy, and most importantly, go write something.